Hello and welcome to episode 131 of the Wisdom from the Akashic podcast. My name is Suzie, I am your host, and I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Today I'm going to be looking at some things to consider when it comes to mixing your Akashic Records work and your Akashic Records practice with other modalities and other practices. And this is something that always comes up when I'm teaching level 2 and 3. Lots of the people that I train to become Akashic Records practitioners do already have a background in another modality. So that could be more traditional modalities such as counseling, therapy, psychotherapy, or it can be yoga teachers, Reiki practitioners, tarot readers, energy healers. I train lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds. There always is a conversation and a discussion around how to mix modalities when it's appropriate and when it's inappropriate. And I want to share this with you today so that you can feel into what's right for you. Please don't take this as me telling you what to do in any way, shape, or form. It's just some points to consider. And also for those of you who are maybe thinking about coming to level 2 with me in October, you can take this as some guidance as to how, as an existing practitioner of whatever background tradition you have, about how you could weave being an Akashic Records practitioner into your existing business and how it can help you to expand your existing business, your offering, and of course your service to your clients. I'll also pop a link into the show notes of a previous episode that I did detailing level 2, so detailing how that class is structured. So if you want to learn more about that and you're thinking about joining me in October, then you can take a listen to that one. That will have you qualified as an Akashic Records reader before Christmas. So you can start 2027 by merging this into your existing business or just becoming an Akashic Records practitioner if you are, of course, feeling the calling for that. So the first thing I want you to think about if you're thinking about bringing in Akashic Records and mixing it with another modality is, what is your intention behind doing that? And this is very important because we want our intentions to, of course, be aligned to our service, our mission, our purpose, and for the best experience of our clients. But sometimes the ego gets involved. Sometimes Bob is there in the background. So we have to be very honest with ourselves in respect of, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to add the Akashic Records in? No, you don't need to tell anybody this. It's just something for you to reflect on. What is my intention behind doing this? The second thing to consider is what dimension or what aspect of the spiritual realms does the modality that you want to mix with the Akashic Records access? Is it going to be helpful to mix the two? Let me explain this. So, as you know, if you've listened to this podcast or if you've done training with me, the Akashic Records is about accessing 5D and above. It's about going into accessing and working with the higher dimensions, the higher spiritual realms. There are other practices such as plant medicine, such as shamanic journeying, for example, which are designed to access the 4th dimension or the astral plane. Now, again, this is not to say that one is better than the other, but they are different in their intentions, as in where they're going and the work that they're doing, there are different intentions. So if you have a modality which is designed to take you into the astral plane and to work within the astral plane for whatever work it is that you're doing in the astral plane, then you have to ask yourself, is it appropriate to do that with your Akashic Records open? Because you're essentially going to 2 completely different places. So is it going to help and expand the experience, or is it going to confuse things? Is there an actual purpose behind it? Now, I know for lots of people, when they're working with tarot cards, when they're working with oracle cards, other forms of divination, they like to do this with their Akashic Records open because they feel like it really helps them to connect into their intuition, their internal technology much stronger than if they don't. And that's completely okay. But when it comes to different modalities, it is very important to understand, okay, where am I actually going? What dimension of reality, what plane, what realm am I accessing? And determining whether or not something is going to expand that experience, if it's going to help and be supportive of that experience, or if it's just going to confuse things and muddy the waters. It's definitely not recommended to, for example, take plant medicine with your Akashic Records open, because again, your intention with the plant medicine journey is to go into the astral plane and do work there, and that isn't what the Akashic Records are for. So that's very important to consider. And the third thing I want you to really consider is just the sacredness of the practices. So again, with certain plant medicine journeys, with shamanic journeys, there's a very sacred aspect, and those traditions have been passed down, and they've been passed down in a certain way to achieve certain aims, to do certain work within the astral plane. Just like the Akashic Records, there's a sacredness to the practice, there's a sacredness to you opening and going into the Akashic realms and really exploring and experiencing those higher spiritual realms. And we want to be very respectful of the sacredness of those practices, the way that they have been passed down and the lineages that they have come through, the teachings that they have come through. We don't want to be disrespectful in any way, shape or form. For those of you who are an Akashic Records practitioner, maybe you work in your own Akashic Records, if you're thinking about whether or not I can mix modalities, my best advice is to go and ask the Akashic Records. So you can ask your own personal records if it's just for you exploring your own spiritual development, or you can go in and ask your business records if it's something that you're looking at from a business perspective. So your business has Akashic Records too. Definitely they're going to be the best people to ask, but do consider those three things as well. You can absolutely use the Akashic Records to enhance your intuition, to complement different services. I've had guests on who are psychotherapists who will use the Akashic Records in some of their client work to really help them understand their client and see them from that bigger picture perspective. Coaches can use it for, again, just helping to be able to see that more objective, bigger picture that the Akashic Records has to offer. But we do have to, if we're going to integrate the Akashic Records with other modalities, we do have to think about it and think about it quite deeply before we do that. And of course, as I just said, if in doubt, just double check in with the Akashic Records about how it works. I have seen people blend the Akashic Records beautifully with their existing work, whether that's readings or clearings or both. And I've seen it work beautifully. But we do have to be mindful before we're just adding things into the mix. I hope that's given you some food for thought if you're thinking about mixing the Akashic Records with other modalities, and also maybe given you some food for thought if you are an existing practitioner as to how you could weave it in. Of course, the individual advice I would give you is going to be very different based on the work that you do and how you can weave it in, and it's definitely something we do tend to talk about in levels 2 and 3. So if you're thinking about coming along to those, would love to see you there. And of course, you have any questions about the training, just drop me an email and I'll be sure to respond. I, of course, will see you next time for the next episode.